Hi, Peter here again from True North Marine. In this video I want to talk about Rule 5 of the Colregs. Rule 5 is the lookout rule. It is arguably one of the most important rules in the Colregs, whether you're new to boating or a professional seafarer and doing some revision. Before we get to Rule 5 though, I just want to do a little bit of revision on Rule 2, our responsibility, because this often gets overlooked. So just a quick revision here. In Rule 2 on the screen, nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel, the owner, master or crew thereof, from the consequences of any neglect to comply with these rules. So Rule 2A is telling us essentially that we must comply with the rule. Now, no one has yet been able to explain to me how you can comply with the rules if you do not know the rule. That's the very key part of the whole process of having rules, is you need to know the rules to then be able to comply with them. So if you don't know Rule 5, for example, which is the lookout rule, how are you going to perform the duties of a lookout if you don't know how to do that? That's the purpose of this video today. So Rule 2 also says that nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel, the owner, master or crew thereof, of the neglect of any precautions which may be required by the ordinary practice of seamen or by the special circumstances of the case. So now going into Rule 5, what Rule 5 tells us is that every vessel shall, at all times, maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing. Now, there's two very important components or elements to Rule 5. Now, keep in mind that Rule 5 applies in any condition of visibility and has these two vital elements. But let's have a look at the second part. It says that the lookout should be by all available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances and conditions so as to make a full appraisal of the situation and of the risk of collision. Keep in mind that the whole concept of having the regulations is for the prevention of collision. That's what it's all about. The actions we take and the actions other vessels take should always be focused on and designed to avoid a collision. So I've got a little diagram on the screen here now, and I'll just do a bit of explanation before we start. So in the diagram on the screen, firstly we have my vessel, which is the green dot, and that's my course, 045 degrees true. We have the red vessel with the red dot, and they're steering a similar course, 045 degrees approximately true. They're overtaking me. So I'm the slower vessel, they are the faster vessel. But with my passage plan, I've got a course change coming up. That X on the screen marks a waypoint, and I'll be changing course from 045 degrees true to 090 degrees true. But the red vessel overtaking me doesn't know what my passage plan is. He would not be aware that I have a course change coming up. Now, as the overtaking vessel, he can overtake either side. The rule doesn't stipulate one or the other. So he could come down my port side or he could come down my starboard side. As a vessel being overtaken under Rule 13, I'm obligated to maintain my course and speed. So I look at the risk now, because that's what Rule 2 is telling me to do. Look at the risk of this situation and the possibility that misinterpretation of various courses could occur. So I have two choices essentially. One, I could say nothing and do nothing, just maintain my course and speed, get to my waypoint and make that course change. But if the overtaking vessel comes down my starboard side, that could put us into close quarters situations or risk of collision. Ideally, it would be best if he came down my port side. So now I could contact that other vessel by radio, tell him of my situation and ask him if it's okay for him to come down my port side. I mean, 99% of the cases, there would be no issue with that. And I'm sure that the other vessel would agree to do that. What do we end up with? No risk of collision, problem solved. Just continue to monitor the situation as that vessel overtakes me. The other alternative choice I have would be that if I see that this vessel is coming down my starboard side and I haven't made contact in regards to the course change, then I would need to perhaps slow my vessel down. Now, even though Rule 13 says maintain your course and speed if you're the vessel being overtaken, remember Rule 2, Part B also says that I can depart from the rules. So that speed component I'm adjusting is allowable under Rule 2 because this vessel is overtaking me. I will let him move ahead and then continue with my course change and new course. So that's the kind of situation we can have as an example of how to look at Rules 2 and Rules 5. So now if we're looking at Rule 5, the lookout rule, the next few slides are going to cover some ideas for you to just think about in your own circumstances. First one is ensure you maintain a lookout all around. your vessel. There are times when I'm on the bridge or the wheelhouse of a vessel and I see the lookouts only looking forward or off to the side, and very rarely do they look astern. But you should continuously look around your vessel. Use all available personnel and equipment. So if you've got equipment on board, particularly electronic equipment, that should be utilised. You should have a full understanding of its use. And if you have available lookouts, then use those as well. Consider changes in the weather. The weather could be fine, the rain squalls come in, the wind picks up, a fog bank for example. Then any of those changes, you should consider using more lookouts. Continuously monitor the situation and adapt to any changes. Continuously look and listen both inside and outside the wheelhouse or the bridge. If you've got the door shut, there may be sounds outside that you haven't heard. While in the wheelhouse or bridge, be aware of background noise, any kind of interference, radio communications, for example, or crew talking. Ensure you have a good understanding of operating electronic aids such as radar, automatic identification system, or electronic chart display and information systems. Make sure you not only have those on board, but you know how to use them. Ensure that all the watchkeeping crew in the wheelhouse or on the bridge are properly skilled and knowledgeable in using those electronic devices. Avoid the use of mobile phones during lookout duties. Contact other vessels via VHF if necessary to avoid confusion in crossing situations, even in overtaking situations as the previous example showed you. It's also not just a case of looking out around you, but monitoring your equipment, sounders for example, to make sure that the available depth is consistent with what you're expecting. Adjust your speed in relation to the depth, traffic density, visibility, or tidal effects. Know how to understand ARPA, the information it gives you, and information such as closest point of approach or time to your closest point of approach. Be familiar with using radar and the electronic bearing line and variable range markers, and acquire target functions to determine risk of collision with vessels that are detected by radar. Be aware that some vessels may not be detected by radar. Be extra vigilant during night time and restricted visibility. Be aware of vessels displaying incorrect navigation lights or lights that may be obscured or difficult to see or to recognise. Consider inexperience of your lookout crew. Ensure lookouts are correctly instructed on reporting sightings using standard points of the compass. Consider the limitations of sound signals. Use binoculars frequently to obtain a better appraisal of the situation. Prevent interference of night vision from wheelhouse lighting, bridge lighting or deck lighting. For example, taking a pilot on board. Your own vessel could be displaying lights shining down towards the deck level where the pilot boarding area is, and that could obscure your vision at times while the vessel is still making way. So here's some instructions you could give to your lookouts when you're performing watchkeeping duties on board your vessel. Prevent interference of night vision from wheelhouse lighting, bridge lighting or deck lighting. Avoid being distracted by other crew working in the wheelhouse or on the bridge. Ensure a complete understanding of the Colregs to take appropriate action in crossing or overtaking situations. That your lookouts have the following instructions as a minimum. Make sure they're fit for duty. Make sure they do not use mobile phones. Make sure they describe the object sighted or the sound that they hear. Provide the direction of the sighting or sound using points of the compass or relative to own ship's head. Make sure they provide information on the following situations: when you're meeting another vessel, when you're crossing the path of another vessel, overtaking or being overtaken, or what lights or sounds that they see or hear, etc. Get them to speak loud, clear and brief. So there you have it. Rule 5, the lookout rule. Not so much what the rule says, but how to put the rule into action, how to apply the rule to avoid a collision. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.